In the Thuy Village, the affluent, powerful, and respected home of Master Tran was ironically where a blood curse began. From Madame Thuyet's unjust slap, from Master Tran's indifferent gaze, to the mournful calls of crows on the full moon night of the 7th month, all were the genesis of 3 generations of tragedy for the Tran family. A kind wife unjustly perished by the well, a daughter imprisoned in a cold prayer room, a butler and an ethnic shaman plotting against their master, and a concubine turning her lover into a husband, her children into tools. The schemes, blood, and hatred, suppressed for 2 decades, finally erupted, transforming Master Tran's house into a living hell where the living went mad. The dead became ghosts, where wronged souls rose to seek vengeance, and every individual's sins were paid for. 3 decades later, when the village well was drained, people discovered a silver bracelet inscribed with the name Pham Minh Quang, marking the end of a once illustrious family, and a grim reminder that blood spilled beneath the banyan tree means vengeful spirits never rest. Kim had barely finished speaking when a thunderous slap landed on her face. The slap wasn't from Quang, but from Madame Thuyet. After striking Kim, Madame Thuyet erupted in a furious tirade. "Who are you calling evil? They took our money. They messed up. Now they must pay. Oh, dear heavens! Madame Ha and her daughter are siding with outsiders, with those who caused death, who brought bad luck on Master Tran's birthday. A man of such high virtue and standing. Those ingrates biting the hand that feeds them." Finishing her outburst, she glared, pointing at Luke. "Luke, take Madame Ha and her daughter to their room. They have no business here." Luke bowed slightly and motioned for 2 servants to pull Madame Ha and Kim into their room. Kim's eyes welled with tears, her heart heavy with unspeakable indignation. All this unfolded before Master Tran, yet he pretended not to see, neither supporting nor intervening. This wasn't the first time Madame Ha and Kim had been oppressed by Madame Thuyet and her son. Ever since Madame Thuyet gave birth to Quang for Master Tran, things had been this way. Master Tran no longer cared for Madame Ha or Kim. He paid no attention to right or wrong within the household. Madame Thuyet handled everything. From then on, Madame Ha and Kim lived like unwanted guests in their own home, enduring each day, each month, in silent resignation. No sooner had Madame Ha and her daughter been shoved into their room by Luke's 2 trusted henchmen than another scream echoed through the house. All the servants present froze, their faces drained of color. Master Tran finally regained his composure. He called Luke over and said, "Go check what caused that plaque to fall. If those 2 scoundrels were indeed negligent, then they'll lose their jobs." Butler Luke assented and went with Quang to inspect. When Luke returned to Master Tran, his face seemed utterly bewildered. Seeing Luke, Master Tran quickly asked, "Well, do you know the cause yet?" Butler Luke replied, "Master, this is truly strange. It seems something gnawed through the steel wire where the plaque was hung, causing it to fall." Master Tran roared, "Nonsense! Do you know how thick that plaque is, and what kind of wood it's made of? That's impossible. It was just hung yesterday morning." Quang interjected, "I just checked too. It really looks like a rat gnawed through the rope binding the steel wire, causing it to slip and the plaque to fall. If you don't believe me, father, go see for yourself. Unable to believe Luke and Quang's words, Master Tran rushed to where the plaque had been discarded in the corner of the garden. Quang and Luke's words were entirely accurate. Unreasonable, utterly unreasonable. But it's the truth, Master Tran muttered, collapsing to the ground in a daze. What creature could gnaw through something like that? A rat. Impossible. Impossible. In the end, Quang concluded that a very large and strong rat must have gnawed the hole, causing the plaque to fall. Quang sent the two workers home, but without a single word of apology or a single coin for their medical expenses. That evening, Master Tran's house was unusually quiet. The moonlight, sometimes bright, sometimes dim, made the atmosphere eerie somber. Around midnight, a flock of crows suddenly flew in, perching all over the banyan tree in front of Master Tran's house. Their mournful caws, full of sorrow, seemed to herald an impending misfortune. Madame Ha and Kim, at that moment, opened their door and looked towards the banyan tree. Madame Ha spoke up. It looks like there are two people, a man and a woman, standing on top of the banyan tree. Why is that crow looking at me and crying? Madame Ha's murmuring confused Kim. She asked her mother, Mother, what's wrong? Who would climb a tree at this hour? Crows sometimes perch on this banyan tree. Maybe they're just unusually loud tonight. You've been tired all day, Mother. Go to bed early. With that, Kim reached out and closed the window. Madame Ha, with sorrowful eyes, slowly lay down. Outside, the flock of crows continued their mournful cries. Quang, annoyed by the crow's caws waking him, opened the door, cursed, and threw rocks towards the banyan tree. After that day, things gradually returned to normal. Life in Master Tran's family settled back into its usual rhythm. A week later, as the sun peeked over the green bamboo hedges, a procession of elegantly dressed people, carrying many lavish betrothal gifts, walked along the village road towards Master Tran's house, laughing and chatting happily. The villagers, seeing this, excitedly gathered to watch. Never before had they witnessed such a luxurious and formal engagement ceremony. It was the magistrate's family arriving today to propose a marriage for Master Tran's daughter. From inside the house, Master Tran hurriedly stepped out to the main entrance to greet the magistrate's engagement party, his face beaming with joy. Madame Thuy walked beside him, supporting him, looking visibly pleased, her eyes full of confidence. And Thuy followed her mother, her cheeks flushed. She secretly smiled to herself, then stole a glance at Nam. Today, Nam looked like a prince from the fairy tales Thuy had heard and dreamed of living. Was that dream coming true today? Oh no! She felt flustered, her heart racing. Madame Thuy had seen Gayet and Nam chatting happily together the other day. With Kim, however, she had only seen them briefly acknowledge each other with a glance and a nod. Therefore, she believed that the magistrate's son was here today to propose to Gayet, her daughter. Looking at the pile of betrothal gifts the magistrate's family brought, Madame Thuy's eyes lit up. After a quick scan, she whispered to Master Tran, "So many gifts, Master, all rare and expensive items. This time, you and I are set. The magistrate truly is something else." Master Tran turned to Madame Thuy, looked at her, and said, You're only greedy. Where are Madam Ha and Kim? Why aren't they out here to greet our guests? Madam Thuy shot Master Tran a sideways glance. Today, the magistrate's son is here to propose to Nyat, not Kim. Why would they come out? Madam Ha and her daughter are probably jealous of Goyet. That's why they don't bother showing their faces. Let Madam Ha be. No one cares if she and her daughter are absent anyway. Why so anh not see? Ngọ. Anh đây nè, áo xuống đây. Elada. ADC. Hearing this, Master Tran looked displeased, but asked no further questions. At this moment, the magistrate's procession had entered the courtyard. Master Tran and Madame Thuy stepped forward. Master Tran bowed respectfully and said, "Greetings, Your Excellency, Magistrate and young Master. I don't know why you grace us with your presence today, but..." The magistrate cut him off before Master Tran could finish. "What else? You know why I'm here today. The other day, when I came for your birthday, my son Nam mentioned he had taken a liking to your daughter and wished to marry her. As far as I know, none of your daughters are engaged yet. So today, I've brought him here, hoping to form a marital alliance with your family. What are your thoughts, esteemed couple?" Madame Thuy eagerly interjected, "Oh, young master, the magistrate's son is so learned and understands etiquette so well. To take an interest in a daughter from our humble family is truly a blessing, a great fortune for us. How could we possibly refuse such an honor?" Master Tran also smiled and said, "Yes, that is indeed our wish, my wife and I. We are deeply honored by young master's interest." The magistrate laughed heartily and said, "It is I who am honored that you, Master and Madame Tran, agree. To avoid any further complications, let our two families agree to find an auspicious day this very month to hold the wedding for the young couple." Wyatt, hearing the magistrate's words, became even more flustered. Her cheeks flushed, and her hands clasped together. She stole a glance at Nam and saw him looking at her. Kneeling, Nam offered a gentle smile and a nod of greeting. Wyatt shyly nodded back in response, then suddenly turned and ran quickly into her room. Madame Thuy was ecstatic, as if she had struck gold. She hastily said, "See, my daughter is about to get married, yet she's still so shy. Whatever arrangements Your Excellency makes, our family will follow." Guang's face lit up with joy, for if his sister married the magistrate's son, his own path to officialdom would surely be smooth. At the very least, ensuring he retained the Master Tran's position his father currently held. Everyone chuckled happily. Even butler Luke in the house was in high spirits today. He was gentler with the other servants, even announcing loudly, "Anyone who works well today, I'll reward them with 5 more coins." Just then, outside in the courtyard, Nam spoke up. "Excuse me, may I ask where Madam Ha and Miss Kim are? I haven't seen them since I arrived." "Oh." Madame Thuy's face subtly changed. She quickly put on a cheerful expression and said, "Oh, I forgot to mention it earlier to everyone. This morning, Kim came to tell me that Madam Ha caught a cold last night and is feeling a bit unwell today. Kim is probably taking care of her now, so it's not convenient for them to come out. I hope Your Excellency and the young master will understand. Nam paused to think. He gently asked everyone to tell Madam Ha and Kim that if Madam Ha felt well enough to come out, that would be good. But if not, Kim could come out to meet him for a moment. Madame Thuy looked very flustered. She stuttered, about to say something, then stopped. Seeing this, Master Tran quickly interjected. "Oh, yes, yes. I'll call someone to fetch Madam Ha and her daughter to meet you right away." With that, he called out to a servant, "Go into their room and tell Madam Ha and Kim to come out here immediately. Tell Madam Ha that even if she's sick, she must come out." Young Master Nam need to see her. The servant assented and rushed towards Madam Ha's room. Inside the room, as soon as the magistrate's party entered the alley, Lai had hurried to inform Madam Ha and Kim. "Madam, miss, the magistrate's son is here. It seems he's proposing to Miss Guyot. They brought so many grand betrothal gifts, madam. You and Miss should come out and see." With that, she ran off, fearing Madame Thuy might see her gossiping and punish her severely. Kim, though she had only met Nam once and didn't feel any affection or longing for him, felt a strange discomfort in her heart after hearing Lee say he was asking for Nayad's hand in marriage. Her eyes showed a hint of sadness. Seeing her daughter looked unhappy, Madam Ha gently took Kim's hand, her eyes looking at Kim as if she wanted to cry. Suddenly, the servant's voice echoed from outside the door. "Madam, Miss Kim, Master told me to call you both out to meet the magistrate. He said to come out right now." Hearing this, Kim's heart began to pound nervously. Madam Ha smiled, held Kim's hand, and nodded. Madam Ha and Kim stepped out, met by Madame Thuyet's furious glare and the murmuring of the servants. "Oh, I thought young Master Nam was proposing to Miss Guyot. Why call Miss Kim? Or does young Master Nam want to marry Miss Kim?" The servants' whispers further fueled Madame Thuyet's anger. She spun around, glaring sharply at the gossiping servants. The servants fell silent, not daring to utter another word. Madam Ha and Kim arrived and respectfully bowed to the magistrate. Kim kept her face down, not daring to look up, feeling flustered. The magistrate spoke. "It seems Madam Ha is not feeling well. Young master, if you have something to say, please say it so, madam. Ha can rest." Nam too seemed flustered. He hesitated. "Yes, yes, father." "Master and Madam Tran, I wish to ask for Kim's hand in marriage." He then turned to Kim. I apologize for this suddenness, but I hope you understand. Rest assured, I promise to make you happy. Please, please, trust me." At this point, Kim stood silently, offering no resistance. She remained still, her head bowed, making Nam wait. Suddenly, Madam Ha spoke. The child's silence means she agrees. I am a mother, so I understand her best. She's just shy. Nam smiled, turning to look at Kim. He was about to speak again when Kim's face flushed. With a shy glance, she turned and ran straight back into her room. Madame, Henny stepped before the magistrate and said, "My daughter has agreed to marry young Master Nam. It is up to the magistrate and young Master Nam to decide when you wish to take her to your home as your daughter-in-law." Hearing Madame Ha's words, the magistrate laughed heartily and said, "Madame Ha truly understands others. I am deeply honored to form an alliance with you and Master Tran. We will send someone to inform you of the exact date tomorrow." With that, the magistrate instructed his men to place the betrothal gifts in Master Tran's courtyard. Inside the house, witnessing everything, Ngayet completely crumbled. She buried her head in her hands, sobbing uncontrollably, her fists clenched, her eyes burning with resentment. Thoughts of injustice flooded her mind. She should have been the one proposed to. Her own sister had taken everything from her. Since childhood, her sister had always been more beloved by everyone in the family, more beautiful. If it weren't for her sister, perhaps she would have everything. She hated her sister, resented her for stealing the only man who had ever made her heart flutter. Master Tran now turned to Madame Tuyet. Madame Tuyet's face showed clear disappointment. Her eyes filled with a hateful sideways glare directed at Madame Ha and Kim. Realizing this, Master Tran felt awkward, unsure how to handle the situation, when Kwang's voice rang out. "Young Master Nam, are you mistaken? The other day, you were talking intimately with my sister, not her. Have you forgotten so quickly?" Master Tran, seeing his son had overstepped, glared at him, signaling him to be silent, then interceded. "Please, Your Excellency Magistrate and young Master Nam, pay no mind to his recent words. He is young and speaks without thinking. I beg your forgiveness." Witnessing the events unfold, the magistrate had remained silent. He looked at Nam, understanding that he wanted Nam to handle this himself. As soon as Master Tran finished speaking, Nam immediately said, "Master Tran, it's nothing at all. We will soon be one family. Family members shouldn't quibble over such small matters. I just have one small question that's bothering me." Master Tran quickly asked, "Young Master Nam, what is troubling you? Please speak." Without hesitation, Nam said clearly, Kim is the elder sister, even Madame Ha's only daughter. I heard that Master Tran's family is very traditional, with clear hierarchy. So why did young Master Kwang just call Kim her? Master Tran was speechless after hearing the question, unable to utter another word. Behind him, Madame Tuyet quickly stepped forward to smooth things over for Master Tran. "Please, young Master Nam, don't take it to heart. Because the two sisters have been close since childhood, sometimes they use overly casual language. There's nothing more to it, Your Excellency Magistrate and young Master." At this point, the magistrate suddenly laughed loudly, breaking the tense atmosphere. Come now. We're about to become one family. What's with all this scrutiny and calculation? It doesn't matter who Nam marries. They will still be a child of Master Tran's family. They're not outsiders, so why be indecisive? And then he turned and called out to the servants carrying the betrothal gifts behind him. "Come on, everyone. Bring the gifts inside and arrange them neatly. Don't let anything break. And as for our two families, let's go inside to discuss how to make this wedding as grand as possible. Let's go. Let's go." The atmosphere became more cheerful. Although Madame Tuyet and Kwang were resentful and despondent, since it wasn't Gayet, her daughter, being proposed to, Madame Thuy no longer cared much, but both Madame Thuy and her son had to force smiles, for offending the magistrate now would mean never being able to rise again. Nam now turned his gaze to Madame Ha and said, "Mother, let's go inside." Nam's words stunned everyone, further fueling Madame Thuy jealousy and bitterness. Although he hadn't officially married Kim yet, Nam's actions and gestures towards Madame Ha were truly as affectionate as if she were his birth mother. Entering the main hall, Madame Ha excused herself to call Kim to join them for the ceremony. Inside the room, seeing Kim pacing nervously, Madame Ha smiled, then rushed to take her daughter's hands. "You're grown now. You must find someone to rely on. Someone to entrust your life to. Your life is long, and you need a truly good person to walk with you until the end. Young Master Nam will surely make you happy. Don't worry. Go marry him and escape this place. You've suffered so much for so many years." Heaven truly has eyes to send such a good man to care for my good daughter. With that, 2 lines of tears welled in her eyes. Kim, too, squeezed her mother's hand tightly, bursting into tears. She sobbed, "I don't want to get married. I won't. If I leave with a husband, who will take care of you, mother?" Madame has stroked her daughter's hair and gently said, "I'm old now. How much longer will I live? I don't know when heaven will take me." You can't be a child clinging to my legs forever. If you do that, I'll be even more unhappy and sad. Come, let me help you get ready, and then go greet young Master Nam. It's not good to make people wait too long." Kim, still choked with tears, leaned her head on her mother's shoulder, shaking it, refusing to go out. There was a knock on the door. Madame Ha and Kim quickly wiped away their tears and asked, "Who is it? What do you need?" "Miss Kim is getting ready and will be out shortly." "He says he wants to meet with you and Miss Kim privately." Hearing this, Kim started, looking displeased as she spoke to Madame Ha. "See, mother? You said he was good. What kind of young master, not even married yet, comes knocking on a woman's room? He has no shame. He's probably just another rich playboy with a lustful eye." Madame Ha smiled, looking at her daughter. "Why are you thinking badly of him already? I trust my judgment of people. He probably has something important to say." With that, she called out, "Tell young Master Nam to wait in the parlor for a moment. Madam and Miss will be right out." Nam stepped out into Madame Ha and Kim's private receiving room. A moment later, Madame Ha and Kim emerged. Madame Ha cheerfully invited Nam to sit down. Kim, following her mother, only gave Nam a slight nod without speaking. Nam quickly stepped outside, looking around to see if anyone was nearby, besides a few servants still gathered, gossiping about today's surprising engagement. Nam then quickly turned and knelt before Madame Ha, startling both Madame Ha and Kim. Without waiting for Madame Ha to ask, Nam immediately spoke. "Mother, I am the child you saved that rainy afternoon, the one you had someone rescue and take elsewhere. If it weren't for you, I would surely have died that evening. You are the one who gave me a second life." I apologize for not returning sooner to thank you for saving my life." Kim's eyes widened, not understanding what was happening. Madam Ha, however, seemed to recall the events of years past. That day, while playing with Kim in the house, she accidentally overheard Madame Thuyet's conversation with Master Tran. Madame Thuyet's angry voice. "I don't care what you do. But if she dares insult me like that, it means she disrespects you. And she's affecting your son in my womb. This time you must not spare anyone in her family, or else no one will fear Master Tran's authority anymore." Hearing Madame Thuyet, Master Tran seemed to grow even angrier. He said, "All right, don't worry." He said, "All right, don't worry. If she dares touch the one I love most, her whole family will pay the price. I've been planning this for a long time. Today will be the end of the Can household, the wealthy family. Now, rest. You'll be satisfied soon." With that, Master Tran turned and loudly called, "Look, where's Lot? Call a few men to come with me to the Khan family and seize them quickly." Downstairs, Luke was already prepared with several other men, knives and clubs in hand, their faces grim with murderous intent as they headed for the gate. As they passed Madame Thuyet's door, she waved Luke over and said, "Don't spare anyone, not even the children." Luke nodded with a sinister smile, then ran to catch up with Master Tran's group, who were heading towards the Can family home. Madame had heard the entire conversation. She knew a great calamity would befall the Can family, a family she knew to be kind and good-hearted. Unable to bear seeing good people harmed, she immediately called Lai to run and warn the Can family. Unfortunately, every time Lai tried to leave, she saw Madame Thuyet standing on the porch. Lai had to wait for a long time before she could finally slip away to deliver the warning, but by the time she arrived, it was already too late. Luckily, Lai heard that the Can family's son was by the river bank. She immediately ran to the river, gave some money to a Can family servant, and told him to take the child and flee elsewhere. 2 decades had passed, and Madame Ha no longer remembered much of the incident. Now, with Nam kneeling before her, she suddenly recalled the past events. She quickly rushed to help Nam up. "You've grown so big." What a blessing, what good fortune that the Can family still has a son to carry on their line. But Madame Ha hesitated, as if wanting to ask Nam something. Understanding her unspoken question, Nam then recounted his days being raised by the servant. When Nam fell ill, and there was no money for medicine, the servant carried Nam and left him at the doorstep of a wealthy family. Fortunately, the wealthy man had no children, so when he saw Nam, he brought him into his home, treated and raised him, treating him better than his own son. That wealthy man was none other than the current magistrate. Hearing Nam's story, Madame Ha showed great joy, but then immediately hesitated. So this time you've returned here, is? Nam quickly said, "Don't worry, mother. I have no intention of seeking revenge. Those who sow evil deeds will surely receive their just retribution. This time, I have returned to visit you and repay your kindness for saving me." After some time investigating, I found that ever since Madame Thuyet gave birth to Quang, you and Kim have been subjected to discriminatory treatment. I want to marry Kim, and then I will bring you to live in the manor so I can care for you and repay my gratitude." Kim was still in shock and deeply moved by Nam's sincerity. At this moment, she gently asked, "So, you are willing to marry me because you want to repay my mother's kindness, not because—" Nam quickly interrupted. No, that's not it at all. Initially, I returned wanting to repay mother's kindness for giving me a second life, wanting to do something for her. But when I met you, you truly moved me. A feeling I had never experienced with any girl before. That's why I want to marry you." Kim's face flushed with shyness. She lowered her head, not saying anything more. Madame Thuy smiled happily, then took her daughter's hand and Nam's, placing them together. She said, "I can't go anywhere. I belong to this house. Even in death, I will be part of this house. I've lived here for so many years and I'm used to it. Kim, I entrust you to Nam's care in my stead. If you two truly love each other, then I will be at peace. From now on, Kim, you must also learn to care for and share responsibilities with your husband. Understand?" Nam and Kim, as if by unspoken agreement, both said, "Yes, we understand, Mother." They both looked at each other, happy. Their faces still showing shyness. Madame Ha then said, "Now, let's go out and respond to the magistrate's family. We don't want to keep them waiting too long and risk their displeasure." The three walked out, chatting and laughing happily. In the distance, Nayet and Madame Tuyet watched them, their eyes filled with intense hatred and jealousy. Madame Tuyet's eyes were as red as blood, and Nayet's hands were clenched, tears streaming down her cheeks, carrying all her pent-up frustration and bitterness. Madame Tuyet muttered, "This cannot be. What my daughter doesn't have, you two won't have either." Then Madame Tuyet turned and walked straight into the house, leaving Gayet still standing there, heartbroken, watching them. Inside the house, everything was settled. The betrothal ceremony was a success. Everyone from both families happily departed, agreeing to hold the wedding on the 8th day of the following month. Before leaving, Nam turned back to look at Kim with eyes full of happiness. Nguyet saw this and glared at Kim with hateful eyes, though Kim was oblivious. That night, at Master Tran's house, in a small room behind the garden, a man and a woman whispered, "By all means, Madame Ha and her daughter must not have their way. If she marries the magistrate's son, she will surely seek revenge for the years we tormented and mistreated her and her mother. If that happens, our son will have no chance of becoming an official. Moreover, we cannot let our daughter suffer such injustice. We must kill them." The man silently nodded, saying nothing more, then wrapped his arms around the woman. Outside, a shadow had been witnessing their entire conversation. As it turned to leave, it stepped on a dry leaf near the door, creating a rustling sound. They quickly separated. The man, gripping a knife, rushed outside, looked around for a moment, and seeing no one, returned. It must have been the wind. No one would dare come near here. You should go home, just in case. The woman's figure quickly moved, disappearing behind the banana trees in the garden. Behind her, the shadow silently followed. Today, Master Tran took his servant to the neighboring district master to discuss matters. Since Kim's wedding was just over a week away, Butler Luke stayed home to oversee things and did not accompany Master Tran as usual. Master Tran was expected to be away for several days, returning just before his daughter's wedding. Madame Thuy eagerly ran up to him asking, "Master, please come back early. Kim's wedding is approaching. It's an important event, and her in-laws are the magistrate's family. If anything goes wrong, they might scold us." Master Tran happily replied, "I've discussed all the preparations with Luke. You stay home and supervise everything carefully. If you need anything, just call Luke to discuss it." With that, Master Tran and his servant departed. Behind them, Madame Thuy smirked sinisterly. That night, a heavy rain fell. The wind outside howled furiously, and rainwater splashed inside the house. Thuy quietly stepped out of her room, her eyes cold and deeply sorrowful, heading towards Kim's room. On the side of the house, hurried footsteps could be heard, rushing towards the well in front of the house. A thunderous clap of lightning struck, momentarily silencing everyone in shock. Then the hurried footsteps resumed. Flashes of lightning flickered continuously, revealing a tall, ghost-like shadow, appearing and disappearing with each flash, silently and stealthily dragging a sack towards the gate. The next morning the rain had completely stopped, but the sky remained gloomy. Lai, the servant, as usual, went to the well early in the morning to fetch water for daily use. Upon reaching the well, she dropped her buckets and fled back to the house, her face pale, her lips trembling, unable to form words. Madame Thuy, hearing the commotion inside the house, went outside and seemingly yelled, "What's wrong with you, girl? You look like you've seen a ghost. What happened? Calm down and tell me." After a moment to compose herself, Lai finally managed to speak. Madame Ha is dead. Her body is floating in the well." Hearing that Madame Ha was dead, Madame Thuy's expression didn't change at all. With the same indifferent attitude, she told the servant, "Go, tell Butler Luke to come up here for me." The servant quickly ran off. Lai instinctively started to run towards Kim's room to inform her mistress, but Madame Thuy blocked her. "Where do you think you're going? If you tell Kim and she sees Madame Ha floating in the water, she'll be too shocked, and who knows what might happen. Let them bring her body back here, then tell her." It won't be too late. Butler Luke rushed out with the servant. Upon arrival, he and others pulled Madame Ha's body out, carried it back to the house, laid it in the middle of the courtyard, and covered it with a mat. Seeing Madame Ha's death, all the servants in the house broke down in tears. She had lived such a virtuous and kind life, only to suffer such a miserable end. Her eyes were wide open, showing only whites, and blood oozed from her ears, nose, and mouth. Butler Luke, utterly horrified, said to Madame Thuy, "Well, why? How could this be? Madame Ha only died sometime last night, so how could her body be floating this morning? And her stomach? Her stomach is normal. There's no water in it at all. It's too strange, madam." Thuy and Kim had also arrived by now. Seeing Kim, Madame Thuy glattler Luke daughter Luke. At this, Butler Luke only looked back at Madame Thuy, shook his head, and said nothing more. Kim, upon seeing her mother, fainted from grief, collapsing several times. She writhed in pain, clutching her mother's body and weeping. And Guet still watched Kim holding Madame Ha's body with cold, emotionless eyes. Then, with the same gaze, she glanced at Madame Truitt. And then she looked at Butler, Luke again, without blinking. Butler Luke, seeing Guet looking at him, bowed slightly, then looked away. Quang stumbled out of the house, his voice still heavy with sleep. "What's all this commotion so early in the morning? Did someone die? Why are you all crying so much?" A servant's voice replied, "Yes, young master, Madame Ha has passed away." Poor woman. Quang started, then quickly walked over, peering. Seeing Madame Ha's body, still with wide-open eyes and blood soaking Kim's clothes, Quang's face also pale. He stammered, How did she die?" The servant recounted Lai's discovery of Madame Ha's body. Quang muttered, "Why would an old woman be wandering out to the well at night, especially with such heavy rain and strong winds last night? She must have fallen in. If she can't swim, then of course she drowned." Hearing Quang's words, the servants felt indignant, but no one dared speak up. Kim, by this time, had fainted. Everyone shouted, helping her into the house. Quang called after them, "Take good care of my eldest sister. We don't want her following Madam." Otherwise, how will we explain it to the magistrate's son? Then, as if something just occurred to him, Quang said, "This woman truly picked a day to die, didn't she? Right before her daughter's wedding. She must not want her daughter to get married, huh? And a special death too. Drowned. But her stomach is flat, like someone who's been starved for days." As Quang rambled on, Madame Truitt pulled his arm and glared at him. Seeing his mother's displeasure, Quang stopped talking and went straight back to his room to sleep. When Master Tran returned home, Madame Ha's body had already been placed in a coffin and covered. He appeared utterly indifferent to the death of his first wife. He merely asked a few perfunctory questions, then said, "Kim's wedding will probably have to be postponed for a while, so she can mourn her mother. Inform the magistrate so they can reschedule the wedding date." The messenger departed. Madame Truitt watched him go, then silently smiled. At Madame Ha's funeral, apart from the servants and Kim, no one shed a single tear. The only cries heard were Madame Truitt's each time someone came to pay their respect. Madame Truitt believed that all her actions went unnoticed. However, there was one person who constantly observed her, though she was unaware. That night, in the house, only the servants and Kim remained to keep vigil by Madame Ha's coffin. Outside, heavy rain began to fall again. It was around 1 a.m., and the banyan tree in front of the house echoed with the incredibly mournful cries of crows. Despite the heavy rain, the crows' cries seemed to pierce through, the two sounds blending together to create an even more heartbreaking and chilling atmosphere. Suddenly, Lai cried out, "Miss! Miss! Madam is crying." At this, Kim and everyone else looked in the direction Lai was pointing. On Madame Ha's portrait, 2 drops of water, originating from who knew where, slowly streamed down her cheeks. Kim burst into tears, quickly embracing her mother's portrait. She screamed and called for her mother to return, until she was exhausted. Having eaten nothing all day, only weeping and wailing, when she finally collapsed, she was too tired and fell into a deep sleep. The servants quickly helped her to her room to rest. The remaining servants sat by Madame Ha's coffin, sobbing and lamenting to each other. Poor Madame Ha! She lived her whole life accumulating good deeds. Yet heaven dealt with such a good person so cruelly. Lai, still sobbing, wiped away her tears. Poor Miss Kim too. Just as she was about to get married, she lost her mother. And I heard that only those who die unjustly bleed so much from their ears and nose. Didn't everyone see how soaked Miss Kim was with blood when Madame Ha's body was brought back? As Lai finished speaking, a bright flash of lightning lit up the entire sky, followed immediately by a thunderous clap, making them all huddle together in fear, no one daring to say another word. Master Tran, ever since he went to his room, hadn't slept a wink. He lay with his eyes closed, but sleep wouldn't come. Madame Thuy had gotten up earlier and gone outside. He thought she was just going to the restroom, but she hadn't returned. Suddenly, his room's window, which opened to the back garden, was violently flung open by the wind. In the garden, the wind still howled mournfully. A white shadow slowly glided past the window, startling Master Tran. Thinking he was imagining things, he rubbed his eyes several times, then looked again, but no one was there. With a sigh, he approached the window, intending to close it, when suddenly a pale face with purple lips appeared right next to the window where he stood, separated only by the bars. Utterly terrified, Master Tran fell to the floor, clutching his chest, his eyes wide, his mouth agape, unable to utter a sound. The face was none other than Madame Ha's. She stood silently, looking at him with sorrowful eyes. At this moment, Master Tran's lips merely moved as if he wanted to speak, but couldn't. Madame Ha's figure just stood there, looking at him for a moment, then slowly retreated into the back garden. Madame Ha's voice, as if from some netherworld, echoed in his ears. Master, I died unjustly. They killed me. Their cruelty to me is one thing. But how could you treat me like that, Master? Then, amidst her accusations, she suddenly chuckled. A mournful, painful, and hateful laugh that mixed with the howling wind outside the door, terrified Master Tran even more. Master Tran could no longer stand up and walk. He crawled, step by step, towards the main door, hoping to escape outside. When he had dragged his body close to the door, it suddenly swung open. Before him stood a person dressed entirely in white. Long hair billowed in the wind. Utterly horrified, Master Tran's eyes widened and he fainted. The white figure was Madame Thuy. She was wearing a white silk nightgown. She didn't understand why Master Tran was so frightened. In all the years she had been with him, she had never seen Master Tran so scared. She thought that perhaps Madame Ha's death had agitated him, causing him to react this way. She called out to the servants to help Master Tran back to bed. She said, "He fainted because he misses Madame Ha so much. He's been wanting to sit by Madame Ha's coffin since earlier. But I wouldn't let him. I told him to save his strength to take care of Madame Ha's affairs tomorrow. But I just went to the kitchen and came back to find him trying to go outside. He must be exhausted. Poor Madame. Ah, though we weren't close, I still loved her dearly. The two servant women who heard Madame Tuet were very surprised. They exchanged confused glances. In their minds, they thought Madame Tuet's thorn in her side was finally removed. She must be the happiest person right now. Yet she was pretending to mourn. Truly, a mouth of prayers, a heart of daggers. The next day, as Madame Ha's body was taken to the burial ground, Master Tran and Kim walked closest to the funeral cart. Kim clung to the cart, wailing inconsolably. Her hands clutched tightly, her fingernails bleeding. Behind them, Madame Tuyet walked, lamenting to the wives of the village heads, who all expressed deep sorrow. Noyette walked beside her mother, her eyes cold and emotionless. Guan lagged far behind, laughing and chatting with his friends, completely indifferent. Master Tran walked next to Kim, still somewhat shaken by the events of the previous night. He wanted to distance himself from Madame Ha's coffin, but due to public scrutiny, he had to follow tradition. Suddenly, he heard a knocking sound from somewhere. Listening carefully, it was coming from Madame Ha's coffin. He stopped, looking at everyone around him, but no one reacted. He touched his forehead several times, shook his head, and continued walking. Then 3 more knocks echoed. This time, Master Tran knew he wasn't mistaken. Terrified, he dropped his walking stick. He stopped walking, pointing directly at Madame Ha's coffin, stammering, There's a sound in the coffin. Oh, yes. Who is it? The procession stopped, everyone looking bewildered, not understanding what was happening. Madame Tuyet, seeing this, approached to comfort him. There she's gone, dear. Don't grieve anymore. Let Madame Ha rest in peace. As soon as Madame Tuyet finished speaking, 3 more knocks, rang out. This time, they were louder than the previous 2. Yet only Master Tran heard them. He trembled, asking Madame Tuyet, See? Didn't you hear such a loud knocking sound? Madame Tuyet now realized that Master Tran was having a mental breakdown. Before she could offer him any more advice, she was startled when Master Tran pointed at the coffin again and roared, Open that coffin immediately! Madame Ha isn't dead. She's alive. She's knocking, demanding to be let out. Quick, open that coffin for me. Everyone was bewildered. Those who were faint-hearted trembled at Master Tran's actions. Kim, who had been oblivious to the surrounding events, now heard Master Tran demand to open her mother's coffin. She rushed forward, knelt, grabbed his leg, and, weeping, pleaded, Father, please spare my mother. She lived a hard life. Now that she's gone, please let her rest peacefully in the afterlife. Father. Everyone present offered words of advice, urging Master Tran not to do this, to let Madame Ha rest in peace. After a period of thought and calming himself, listening intently, Master Tran heard no more knocking sounds. But now his eyes showed extreme fear. Finally, after Kim's tearful pleas and the villagers' advice, Madame Ha was laid to rest peacefully. Immediately after Madame Ha's burial, Master Tran called Luke to his study. Do you still remember the shaman who once helped me find a wife and have a son? Where is he now? Is he still alive or dead? Do you know? Butler Luke asked in surprise. Yes, I remember. But why are you asking about him, Master? Master Tran quickly continued. Go find him and bring him back here immediately. Tell him I have an urgent matter that requires his help. Money is not an issue. This is urgent, so go now before it's too late. Without letting Luke ask another question, Master Tran handed him some money and said, Go quickly, the sooner the better. This is urgent, and I'm entrusting it to you. Take this money, and I will reward you further once the task is done. Luke quickly turned and ran off to prepare his belongings, planning to search for the man that very night, as per Master Tran's request. As he passed through the door, Luke smirked sinisterly. At 8 p.m. that night, it suddenly began to rain heavily again. The past few days of heavy rain and wind had left the banana leaves battered and tattered. Outside, the raindrops grew larger. Master Tran paced back and forth in the house. He called a servant in and asked, Have you seen Luke leave yet? The servant replied, Yes. Earlier I saw Madame Tuat also asking Butler Luke if he had left, but because of the rain he might have delayed a bit before leaving. Master, I am told. Seemingly dissatisfied, Master Tran asked again. Then, where is Madame Tuat? The servant quickly replied. Earlier, I saw Madame Tuat scolding Butler Luke for being slow, fearing it would ruin your plans. So she walked towards the kitchen, yelling. She's probably urging Butler Luke to hurry up. Master Tran smiled to himself. He felt fortunate to have married Madame Tuat, because everything she did, no matter what, was for his sake. He muttered to himself, that shaman truly was very skilled. I hope Luke can find him and bring him back. Then my problem will surely be resolved. In the back garden, a clap of thunder startled the woman. After regaining her composure, the woman said, The one who reported to the magistrate's house is already 6 feet under. But sooner or later, they will know. They will come. We must act quickly before the magistrate arrives. The man added, That old fool is truly sick. He believes in ghosts. He thinks Madame Ha's spirit is coming for him because he mistreated her when she was alive. But he doesn't know that if there truly was a ghost, we would be the first ones she'd seek out. The man's eyes were cold as he continued. This time, he wants to bring back the shaman who helped him get a beautiful wife and a son to carry on his line years ago. Perhaps it's time to put an end to his little family. With that, the man let out a sinister, cruel chuckle. The woman said, But will that be all right? The man chuckled softly and said, We'll just say they committed suicide because of Madame Ha's death. Didn't you see that the day Madame Ha died, Master Tran was unstable, talking nonsense, even demanding to open the coffin? And Kim, her 10 fingers were so scraped and bloody from clawing. If they commit suicide now, it wouldn't surprise the villagers. So, let's take this opportunity to reunite the whole family. The man spoke with the voice of a cold-blooded killer. It's about time this colossal fortune of his belongs to our family. The woman hesitated. Will it really work? What if? Don't worry. I've prepared the plan. Just do as I say. The two whispered to each other for a while. Then the woman left. The very next day, Luke brought back an old man dressed strangely, like an ethnic shaman. He looked very peculiar. Master Tran saw him and immediately recognized him. He was overjoyed and hurried over, grabbing the man's hand and saying, "Thank goodness I found you, Master. Years ago, you helped me have a son to carry on my line, and I never had the chance to repay your kindness. Now, my family has troubles, and I hope you can help." The old man raised his hand, stroked his beard, and spoke slowly. "Looking at your complexion, Master, I see it's not good. It's clear that if this problem isn't resolved, you won't live much longer." Hearing this, Master Tran's face turned ashen, his voice trembling. "Master, do you have a way to help me? She really has come back to haunt me. I can't sleep. I'm so scared." The shaman shook his head and said, "Years ago, if you had listened to me and thrown that woman and her daughter out, none of this would have happened today. I told you never to get close to Madame Ha and her daughter. She and that daughter are devils reincarnated, not humans. But you didn't believe me." Master Tran hastily replied, "Master, though I didn't throw them out because of past affection, I absolutely never got close to Madame Ha and her daughter since then." The shaman immediately continued, "It's fortunate you didn't get close to her, or you would have lost your life long ago." The shaman sighed, then moved closer to Master Tran and whispered, "I will perform a ritual to drive that devil spirit away for you. But first, from this moment on, you must not allow her daughter to leave her room." With that, the shaman pulled out a packet of medicine and gave it to Master Tran. "Brew this and drink it immediately. You'll need your strength for the ritual, otherwise you won't be able to endure it." As soon as the shaman finished speaking, Luke took the medicine packet and brought it to the kitchen. Once that was done, he instructed the servants to watch Kim and not let her out until the shaman finished the ritual. He called Luke up to arrange a proper sleeping place for the shaman and told the servants to treat the shaman very well, not to let him be displeased. The shaman glanced at Luke, their eyes meeting with a hidden meaning. The shaman happily followed Luke, walking with his hands clasped behind his back, looking around as if he owned the place. Master Tran was very pleased. He felt it was not in vain that he had brought Luke in as his assistant. For all these years, everything he entrusted to Luke was completed very well and quickly. Unconsciously, he turned his gaze towards Kim's room, seeing his daughter step out, but being blocked by 3 or 4 servants. He shook his head in exasperation. He muttered, "Who told her and her mother to be demons and devils in their past lives?" Then he turned and walked towards his and Madame Tuyer's bedroom. Kim felt utterly distraught, wanting to light an incense stick for her mother at the altar, but unable to. She yelled angrily, "Why are you treating my mother and me like this? Open the door for me. How can my father lock me up like this? I am his daughter. How can he do such a thing?" She swept the entire meal off the table and sat down, sobbing. "Lie." The servant, seeing this, said, "Miss, please don't be angry with us. Master told butler Luke to instruct us to guard you. Please endure a little longer. After Madame Ha's ceremony is over tomorrow, you can go wherever you want. If you go out now, butler Luke will beat us until our legs are broken." Kim knew Lai's words were not wrong. If she insisted on leaving, they wouldn't dare stop her. but they would surely be beaten senseless by her father, perhaps even to death. Kim stopped crying. She stood up and went to her bed. Tonight, the moon was so bright, its light so gentle. The shadow of the banyan tree cast itself upon Master Tran's brick courtyard, the tree's branches swaying like flickering lights on the ground. After a day of exhaustion and sorrow, having eaten nothing, Kim had fallen asleep in her room. Outside, a figure slowly opened the door. Suddenly, a cat shrieked in the banana bushes, startling the figure in black, who turned around. From within the bushes, a large cat with glowing green eyes stared intently at the black figure. Far behind the cat, a white shadow, appearing and disappearing, approached. Terrified, the black figure ran to the back of the house and vanished. Kim, in her deep sleep, suddenly felt a chilling breeze sweep over her, waking her abruptly. Her eyes were already wet with tears. In her ear, her mother's urgent voice still echoed. "Go, go, my child, go away from here. Find Nam." As if remembering something, she rushed to the window. Her hands gripped the bars tightly. She wanted to scream, but it was as if an invisible hand covered her mouth. Before her, a pure white shadow stood silently, looking at her. Its long hair covered its entire face. Beside the white shadow, two eerie green eyes were also staring at her intently. In Master Tran and Madame Thuy's room, Master Tran had just finished drinking the tonic the shaman had given him. Master Tran took Madame Thuy's hand and said, "Truly, without you, I don't know what I would do. Without you to spoon-feed me, I wouldn't have the heart to finish this bowl of medicine." Madame Thuy smiled without speaking. Placing the medicine bowl down, she turned her face away. Master Tran noticed a strange expression on Madame Thuy's face and was about to ask when a sudden heart attack struck him. He clutched his chest, convulsing for a moment. Then blood gushed from his mouth. His eyes were wide open, staring at Madame Thuy. Madame Thuy, frightened, was about to open the door and run out when a tall figure in a black raincoat entered and slammed the door shut. The black shadow embraced Madame Thuy and covered her mouth, preventing her from screaming. After a moment of regaining composure, the black shadow removed its hand and motioned for Madame Thuy to be silent. The shadow stepped further inside and slowly removed the hood covering its head. It was then that Master Tran, aghast, realized that the person was none other than Luke, the closest and most trusted person he had known all these years. Then, with a weak gaze, he looked at Madame Thuy and stammered, his voice barely a whisper, You too are." Luke then smiled, the terrifying smile of a murderer. A smile that had always seemed so normal to Master Tran. "I will let Master Tran know the truth, so that when he reunites with his wife in the underworld, he will have no regrets. Do you even know who that fortune teller truly is?" "He is my father." Luke then let out a roaring laugh. Outside, the shaman slowly opened the door and stepped in, his eyes sharp. He spoke in a cold tone. "Years ago, I cast a divination for you, telling you that you must find a girl with a birthmark on her neck to have a son. Now, you have 2 more children, a boy and a girl. So it's only right that you repay me with your life, isn't it?" Master Tran writhed in pain, still trying to point a finger at Luke. So So you two are working together. So you two are working together. You've been deceiving me all these years. Yes, it was all our plan. There was no robbery at all. I orchestrated everything, Luke said with immense resentment in his eye. Then he took Madame Thuyet's arm. And this Madame Thuyet of yours is actually my wife. Both Quang and Nguyet are my children. Because the truth is, you are infertile. So how could you have children? I have endured, allowing my wife to sleep with you all these years. Now, it's time for you to return everything to me. Master Tran now had only a faint breath left. He whispered, So, Madam Ha, was it you? Luke stood up, his sharp eyes gripping Master Tran's collar, and said, Yes, it was me. Why, do you only remember Madam Ha now? For all these years you provided us with the means to torment your wife and children. Didn't you know? You are the most wicked one. For your own sake, you abandoned your wife and children. Don't worry, soon enough, your 3 family members will be reunited. Master Tran could no longer speak. His body began to stiffen, and 2 lines of tears slowly flowed from his eyes. Perhaps by the time he felt regret, it was also the time for him to depart this life. His mistake was irreparable, and the price was too high. Because of a deceiver, he had abandoned his wife and children, committing countless unforgivable sins. Not all mistakes can be corrected. His body convulsed twice. Blood gushed from his mouth, and then he breathed his last. Luke calmly walked out of Master Tran's room and slowly closed the door. Outside, the dim moonlight cast an even gloomier, colder atmosphere. Suddenly, a barn owl flew by from nowhere, hooting a few times, then flew straight up to perch on the banyan tree in front of the house, looking down. Though a killer who had taken not a few lives, Luke inexplicably felt a shiver, a cold dread at this moment. Luke stepped out of Master Tran's room and headed straight towards Kim's room. He was very surprised to see the servants gathered anxiously outside Kim's room. Luke approached and asked, "One of you should be enough here. Why are so many of you standing around here at night instead of sleeping? Let the young mistress sleep." One person quickly replied, "Sir, we were planning to go to sleep, but Miss Kim is acting strangely. She's clinging to the window, saying Madam Ha is waiting for her outside, and she's crying. We're afraid something might happen, so we didn't dare go to sleep." Hearing this, Luke's eyes changed slightly. He looked towards the back garden. Luke started to turn away, but then turned back and said, "You all keep an eye on Miss Kim. Don't let her do anything foolish." The servants assented, exchanging confused glances. Suddenly, a blood-curdling scream erupted from Master Tran and Madame Thuyet's room. "Oh my God! Help! Help! Master Tran committed suicide." That is, he followed Madame Ha. Oh heavens, dear people! Hearing the screams, the servants rushed over, only to find Master Tran's body stiff on the floor amidst several pools of congealed black blood, with streaks of blood still around his mouth. In Master Tran's hand was a small bottle containing something no one knew, but at a glance everyone recognized it as rat poison. Luke, hearing the commotion, immediately ran up. When he saw Master Tran's body stiff on the floor, Luke knelt down and wept profusely. Everyone in the house was bewildered and surprised, as no one had ever expected Master Tran to commit suicide over Madame Ha's death. After all, everyone knew Madame Ha had long been an unwanted presence in Master Tran's eyes. He only kept her around to avoid scandal. Kwang ran in from outside, embracing Master Tran's body and weeping, tears streaming down his face. As he cried, he occasionally shot a sharp, knife-like glance at Luke. Thuy, who had been standing there all this time, still watched Master Tran's body with a cold, emotionless demeanor. Seeing this, Madame Thuy pulled Ngoye's hand, trying to make her kneel. But Ngoye violently pulled her hand away from Madame Thuyet's and coldly walked outside without saying a word. Everyone gathered to prepare for Master Tran's funeral. Luke, with tears streaming down his face, wrapped Master Tran's body in white cloth. Suddenly, Kwang approached from behind, a small, cold, sharp knife in his hand. Kwang slowly advanced behind Luke, then suddenly swung his arm forward, slashing Luke's throat. Caught guard, Luke couldn't even let out a sound. He clutched his throat, gasping soundlessly. Blood spurted from Luke's neck, splashing onto Master Tran's body and Madame Thuyet's face as she was sitting opposite Luke. Kwang yelled, "You are my father's killer. Anyone who kills my father, I will kill them." Everything unfolded right before Madame Thuyet's eyes. She was utterly horrified, witnessing Kwang use a knife to cut the throat of his own biological father. She only managed to stammer a single sentence before fainting. Son, he is actually..." Several times, Kwang had caught Madame Thuyet in a private room with Luke, but he hadn't said anything. He had suspected his mother was having an illicit affair with Luke Gart. Tonight, when Kwang woke up to go to the restroom, he accidentally saw Luke and the shaman emerge from his father's room. Late at night, he couldn't understand why his father would be meeting these two at such an hour. Curious, he quickly approached the door and listened. But it was silent inside. He heard nothing. There was a faint cough. It was his mother's. Without suspicion, Kwang quietly returned to his room. However, less than 15 minutes later, when he heard of Master Tran's death, Kwang realized that his father's killers were none other than Luke and that shaman. Madame Thuyet fainted, but Kwang paid her no mind. Still, clutching the knife, he darted outside into the darkness. On the banyan tree, countless crows, from who knew where, had gathered, cawing loudly, frightening the servants out of their wits. The house was now in chaos, like a headless snake. Luke's and Master Tran's bodies lay intertwined. Blood splattered everywhere, soaking the entire room. Madame Thuyet was unconscious. Kim, after an entire night of weeping and calling for her mother at the window, had finally succumbed to exhaustion and fallen asleep, completely unaware of the horrifying events unfolding in the house. Ngoye and Kwang had disappeared. No one knew where. As for Luke's father, the shaman, after completing his task, he leisurely walked with his hands behind his back, looking towards the old banyan tree in front of Master Tran's gate. His expression one of deep satisfaction and content. Suddenly, by the well behind the banyan tree, on the steps leading down, stood a girl in a white dress, as if deep in thought. She stood motionless, her back to the shaman, her body perfectly still. "Curious," he called out loudly. "Hey, you girl! Aren't you sleeping? Why are you standing there at this hour? Aren't you sleeping?" The girl remained silent. Curious, he moved closer. As he walked, he called out again, "Hey, girl, go back to sleep. Why aren't you answering me?" The girl still didn't answer. He continued to approach slowly. When he was only 2 steps away from her, she suddenly turned around, causing his mouth to gape open, his eyes wide, his limbs trembling. The noise of the crows on the banyan tree grew louder and louder. A distant voice resonated right next to his ear. "You said my mother and I were transformed into demons and devils. Now, I am the demon, come to take your life." The white shadow was about to rush at the shaman when he suddenly threw a piece of yellow paper from his hand, hitting the white shadow. A piercing scream of pain echoed. The shaman narrowly escaped death. Trembling, he tried to stand up and run away, but in front of him, a black shadow, holding a sharp-pointed pig-sticking knife, slowly approached. He tried to calm himself, staring intently. It was none other than Kwang. Kwang's eyes were bloodshot, like 2 clots of blood. Seeing this, the shaman retreated in fear, stammering, Nephew, you are my grandson. Don't. You are my grandson." As soon as he finished speaking, the knife in Kwang's hand plunged hilt deep into the shaman's stomach. The shaman only managed to raise his hands, gasping for air. Not stopping there, Kwang pressed hard on the knife, trying to widen the gash in his stomach even further. The shaman's internal organs spilled out, hanging loosely. He breathed his last. Kwang coldly kicked the body into the well, then returned, his eyes still burning with anger and resentment. Returning home, Kwang went straight to Madame Tuyet's room. Seeing Kwang, she clutched her chest in pain, screaming and weeping. She thrashed about, looking utterly miserable. Kwang approached, his hands still covered in sticky, foul-smelling blood. "Mother, I avenged father. I have killed Luke and that old shaman." Hearing these words, Madame Tuyet's eyes widened. She sprang up from the bed, stepped onto the floor, her lips trembling. "Son, what did you say? You killed that shaman too?" Kwang replied, his voice still full of anger. "Yes, they were fatherless killers. They deserve to die." As Kwang finished speaking, Madame Tuyet burst into wild laughter, then slapped Kwang's face with a thunderous force. In her frenzy, she cursed her son. "You unfilial wretch! Everything is ruined. All these years of bitterness and humiliation, you've destroyed it all with your own hands. You rebellious son, go die." Kwang was bewildered, not understanding anything, thinking his mother was in shock and speaking nonsense. "Kwang said, Mother, what are you saying?" "Come back to your senses." Madame Tuyet loud. She looked like a wild beast now. "Hey, you killed your own father and grandfather. Master Tran is not your biological father. Do you understand, you unfilial wretch?" Kwang finally understood the truth. At this moment, his limbs trembled violently. Kwang slowly backed towards the door. Then he screamed wildly and ran out, disappearing into the darkness. Many servants, terrified, had fled. Only a few long-time, trusted ones remained. These few now only ran down to the kitchen, huddled together, waiting for dawn. Fortunately, at exactly 5 a.m., when it was still dim, the sound of dogs barking echoed from the alley. A group of people entered the house. It was Nam. Hearing about Madame Ha's incident and knowing something was amiss, Nam had rushed there overnight. After everyone recounted the situation, Nam went into Kim's room. He sent someone to cook her some porridge, then helped Kim sit up. Seeing Nam, Kim burst into tears. Nam gently comforted her, feeding her spoonfuls of porridge. Nam did not rush to tell Kim about the horrifying events that had transpired in the house. At 7 a.m., Madame Tuyet awoke. Nayet, who had disappeared, had also returned at some point. Madame Tuyet was no longer sane. She was raving, sometimes laughing, sometimes crying, saying things no one understood. Nam and Kim were busy arranging Master Tran's funeral. Despite her immense grief, Kim suppressed her pain to organize her father's rites. Everything was proceeding normally when a villager, looking very frightened, ran into the courtyard. "Oh my God! It's horrifying!" "I've never seen anything so terrifying. That strangely dressed old man Luke brought back yesterday is dead outside the well. I don't know who hated him so much that they cut open his stomach. Oh, heavens! It's too much." Everyone was once again startled. They looked at each other in fear. So, in one night, 3 lives, including Master Tran himself, had been lost in his house. Nam, though also chilled by the horrific events, maintained his composure. He comforted Kim, while discreetly observing those around him. When news of another death at the well in front of the gate spread, everyone was abuzz, but Nayet's face remained unchanged. And Madame Tuyet's demeanor showed no surprise, as if she had known beforehand, except that as she heard the news, her hands clenched tighter and tighter. Suddenly, Madame Tuyet spoke, her gestures and words appearing very normal, not at all deranged. "Butler Luke also died yesterday, so where is his coffin?" "Why isn't it here?" Lai immediately replied, "Madam, Miss Kim and young Master Nam had people take Butler Luke's body to be buried." Young Master Nam said that Mr. Luke had no relatives and was alone, so there was no one to inform. Moreover, even if Mr. died, Luke was Master's closest servant. He was still a servant and couldn't have his coffin here for a funeral alongside Master Tran. Madame Tuyet clenched her hands, her eyes fixed on Kim, filled with hatred and resentment. From a distance, Nam observed and asked a servant in the house, "It seems your Madame Tuyet treats her servants well, huh? I still heard Master Tran call your butler Luke that boy." But every time Madame Tuyet referred to him, she seemed to show him great respect, sometimes Mr. Luke, sometimes Uncle Luke. Having spoken, Nam's eyes were probing, awaiting an answer. The servant woman immediately said, "Yes, Madam is only good to Mr. Luke. As for the rest of us..." Then the servant woman walked away, probably fearing that talking carelessly would bring misfortune upon herself, her steps becoming hurried. Madame Tuyet, alternately laughing and crying, approached Kim, who was kneeling before Master Tran's coffin, tears streaming down her face. Following Madame Tuyet, Nuyet walked lifelessly, her face devoid of emotion. As Madame Thuy walked, she said, "Dead. Dead is right. What's there to cry about when someone's dead? Laugh. Come on, laugh. Aha." Kim heard this and immediately wiped away her tears, standing up, her eyes blazing with anger. But before she could react, a flash of light gleamed in Madame Thuy's hand. Pull! Pull! The sound of a knife plunging into flesh was soft and sickeningly smooth. Nam, utterly surprised, rushed forward and pushed Madame Thuy, who fell heavily to the ground. Kim stood frozen in pain, tears flowing endlessly. Ngua was covered in blood, the knife still almost fully embedded in her. Kim embraced Ngoyet and cried, her sobs heartbreaking. In truth, Ngoyet had long known she wasn't Master Tran's daughter. One time, she accidentally overheard a conversation between her mother and butler Luke, and she learned the whole truth, including the conspiracy of the two who had conceived her. From then on, she became cold, quiet, and less sociable with everyone. The night Madame Ha was murdered, if Ngoyet hadn't gone to Kim's room and invited Kim to sleep in hers, Kim might have died that night. Today, she clearly saw her mother acting strangely, so she quietly followed her. When she saw the knife in her mother's hand, she rushed forward, taking the fatal stab intended for Kim. At this moment, Ngoyet's eyes were dimming. She reached out her hand. Kim quickly grasped Ngoyet's hand. "And yet," whispered faintly, "return to me the beatings father gave me in anger that you took for me. We will always be sisters. Okay, sister?" Madame Thuy, by this time, was crawling on her hands and knees, clutching her head, screaming and wailing to the heavens. Ngoyet was now very weak. She managed to glance at Madame Thuy and said, I will never acknowledge a father who would sell his own wife and child to others to serve his own schemes." Before her eyes closed, they rested on Nam. "I was once very heartbroken. If it were anyone else, I wouldn't let go. But the person you want to marry is my sister. I wish you and my sister happiness. I'm going now." Ngoyet's hands went limp, and she breathed her last tears of sorrow. Still flowing from her eyes, Madame Thuy slowly stood up. She shuffled out, step by step. No one paid attention to where she was going, for the house was in utter chaos. Fortunately, Nam was there. Otherwise, Kim would surely have collapsed alone at this moment. Madame Thuy wandered alone on the village road, laughing and talking to herself, saying things no one understood. She trudged laboriously along the village path, her hands still stained dark red with the blood of the child she had borne. All her years of scheming, but had she ever calculated the outcome of this day? Her own son had put an end to his biological father and grandfather, and with her own hands she had taken her daughter's life. Perhaps, after all the evil she had done, no punishment could cause her more pain. She trudged along, following a procession of people in white towards the cemetery. 2 days later, when everyone went to bury Ngoyet and Master Tran, they found Madame Thuy dead in front of Madame Ha's grave. The sight of her death haunted many for the rest of their lives. No one understood how she had managed to smash a glass bottle and put handfuls of glass shards into her mouth, chewing until the pieces slowly pierced through both her cheeks and her tongue, which was almost severed. One of her eyes had been gouged out by something, and her mouth was grotesquely torn open to her ears by the glass. In her hand was a yellow piece of paper, like a talisman. Her arm, holding the talisman, was reaching towards Madame Ha's grave. But perhaps she had died before she could place it on the grave. After these tragic events, Nan took Kim to live in his manor. On behalf of Master Tran's family, he paid all the servants' wages and disbanded the staff. He intended to hire someone to maintain the incense, sweep, and clean, but no one dared to take the job. No one knew where Kwang had disappeared to, only that after he left the house that day, no one in the village ever saw him again. From then on, Master Tran's imposing house at the head of the village, with its banyan tree in front and the well behind it, was abandoned. No one dared to live there, for at night, under the moonlight, white shadows could still be seen, sometimes splashing in the well, sometimes swinging precariously on the tree, sometimes moving about in the courtyard. Later, seeing the waste, the authorities decided to renovate Master Tran's house into a village communal hall dedicated to the village deity. From then on, incidents of villagers being tormented by ghosts became rare, though rumors about it still persisted in stories told by the elderly. However, if anyone dared to harm the banyan tree, it seemed they would all suffer the consequences. Minor offenses would result in being scared speechless. Normal offenses might lead to periods of madness alternating with sanity, but anyone who committed a grave taboo, such as slandering or defiling the area, would not return alive. Nearly 3 decades later, when the village well was dredged, people found a human skeleton and a silver bracelet engraved with the words Pham Minh Quang at the bottom of the well.